Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, let's talk about radicalisation online and the role of social media giants like Facebook, Twitter and Google. A group of MPs has accused them of consciously failing to take action on the use of their websites to promote extremism. The Home Affairs Committee says teams of just a few hundred employees monitor billions of accounts, while Twitter does not proactively report extremist content to law enforcement agencies. In response, the network said that they do take swift action to remove content that promotes violence and extremism. Earlier this year, we spoke to the Facebook Vice President, Nicola Mendelsohn, about how content is monitored on the site.
Who checks? I mean, do you have banks of people sitting in front of screens looking at everything, or do you wait for a complaint to come in? I mean, how do you kind of decide that's okay, that's not okay?
It's a combination of the both.
Yeah, yeah. But it must be an issue in terms of they must have to have rules or some sort of guidance to know, look out for this, don't look out for that, because it's such a, I mean, it's a quagmire, isn't it? I mean, are you going to say some pictures are okay, some aren't okay, some political statements are okay, some aren't okay? Who draws up those rules?
So like any business, we have our own set of policies in terms of making sure that the environment that people come to on Facebook is the environment they feel safe and secure in, and an environment where they want to see and enjoy businesses like theirs, but also pictures of their friends, the family, the entertainment, the news. I mean, God bless you, we see a lot of your news through Facebook. People want to see that. That's what they want to act in and see in an environment that is right and safe and secure for them.
Well, that's Nicola Mendelsohn, Facebook's Vice President, who spoke to us earlier in the year. Let's talk more with Charlotte Holloway from Tech UK. She says the report is not a fair picture of what tech companies are doing to tackle online extremism. Keith Porteous-Wood of the National Secular Society campaigns for freedom of speech. He says an online crackdown of extremists will martyr the muffled. And Sajda Mughal is the director of the Jan Trust, which agrees Facebook, Twitter and Google are dropping the ball and desperately need to do more. What more do you think they should be doing, Sajda?
A lot more needs to be done, and I'll tell you why. Having researched the issue of online extremism for years, since 2006, I know, and I can sit here and tell you that the internet is playing a huge part in radicalising individuals, and I work with young people and they tell me how the internet is playing a part, and that includes social media companies, the Facebooks and the Twitters. And so there needs to be this proactive approach whereby accounts are taken down that are inciting hatred, that are inciting violence. And I can tell you on a personal level, having experienced hate speech towards me and the incitement of violence from far-right extremists as well, more needs to be done.
I mean, obviously the issue is what is being done. Are the tech companies acting but not enough?
I agree, not enough. So whilst they may say that they are acting, on a day-to-day basis, I am immersed in the online world and with regards to online extremism, and I don't believe enough is done, and quick enough as well.
So Charlotte, what would you say about what the tech companies are doing? Because if you see something like Sajda is seeing, I guess it's hard to understand why it's not just automatically picked up and taken out.
Absolutely, and I think what's really important to acknowledge here is the fact that counterterrorism online and extremism more broadly is a deeply complex, deep-rooted issue which doesn't just touch the online world, it's touched many parts of society and culture, as we all know.
But the responsibility of the tech companies to do something about it.
Absolutely, tech companies take those responsibilities incredibly seriously. Nobody's saying that there isn't more steps that can be done, and companies are constantly looking at ways in which they can do more. The report itself recognises, in the depth of the report, a number of good examples of where companies are going, making very positive strides, working in partnership with other organisations, civil society groups, the police, and security agencies, where a lot is being done.
Well,
I don't think nobody's understating. I think to say that companies are consciously failing is grossly inaccurate, and hugely positive steps are being taken.
Let's look at one specific example then. Anjem Chowdhury facing jail after being found guilty of supporting Islamic State on Twitter and YouTube. The National Counter-Terrorism Police tried to get those companies to remove material. They refused. Who's better placed to decide whether something is going to incite extremism, the companies or the counter-terrorism police?
I can't speak to the specifics of that case. What I do know is that the majority of those examples were taken down. Companies asked to act within the law, and they have robust zero-tolerance approaches to illegal extremism material. So in the cases where that is clear, material is taken down, it's done quickly. As Professor Peter Newman from King's College has stated this morning, companies act very quickly. On average, it takes a day for accounts to be taken down.
But they still decide
swiftly
sometimes
and
that
decisively.
actually something, in spite of them being asked to take it down, should stay.
There are robust company policies in place, and companies act within the law and the law that the authorities take them to.
There are cases where photographers, for example, have been banned from Facebook because they've put out pictures that they have taken of female breasts, and that's banned. How are these decisions taken?
Well, I think it would be erroneous to equate issues around the examples you've given with counter-terrorist material.
Well, the point is there's
clear illegal
censorship
examples.
about one thing and not another, and the question is, how is the decision taken about what to censor?
So with illegal material acting within the law, there are clear company policies, and it's the companies themselves.
There's nothing legal about putting a picture of a woman's breasts.
I can't speak specifically about a particular example, but I would say it's deeply contextual. There's no magic algorithm that's going to have one issue and then sit with another. It's deeply contextual, and I think to make those parallels actually underplay some of the serious issues around counter-terrorism material, where we need to work in partnership with other bodies and other organisations.
Keith Porteous-Wood, do you think it's easy to pick out what should and shouldn't be allowed?
I think it's very difficult, but I'm quite worried about the committee saying that journalists shouldn't describe Daesh terrorists as Muslims, when that's what is the core of their identity and determining what they do. Also, they're talking about a zero tolerance on hate speech, but that hasn't been properly defined either. I mean, if we have preachers saying homosexuals should go to hell, that's hate speech, but we shouldn't be putting them in prison. So these are really, really complex issues.
What's your perspective then on the role the tech companies should be playing in deciding whether something is acceptable or whether something should be pulled down?
Well, I think we need to make the law much more precise, and then have...
Can you legislate for something like, as complex as this?
Well, I think we have to, because the moment that we depart from the rule of law, then I think we're into a descending spiral on freedom of expression. And the government on this extremism stuff is really in hard water, in deep water. It's been trying for 3 years to define extremism and failed.
How would you define it?
Well, I don't think that a television programme in 2 minutes is the opportunity to do that. But if we can't do it, then it effectively lays the floor open for government to act in any way that it likes. And I'm really concerned about some of this terrorism stuff. I mean, the extremism orders that are being discussed at the moment, they are almost certainly going to criminalise people acting in ways which at the moment isn't even criminal, and ruining their lives.
Sajda, do you think that there should be clarity within the law so that it is absolutely clear what the responsibility is of tech companies when it comes to what is out there?
To be honest with you, if we have material online, and there is material online that is inciting hatred and that is inciting violence, there needs to be firm action taken.
Have you pointed up material that you've seen that you believe
Yes.
incites to what, tech companies?
All the time, through Facebook, via Twitter.
So you just press the report button effectively?
Report button, you go through the process, and I'll give you an example. When I basically get hate speech hurled at me, being a Muslim, and also based upon my gender, I report it through via Twitter. Every single case, and I have reported many into Twitter, with every single case, nothing is done.
But what do you think should be done? You think an account should be taken offline if someone
If an account is
says something that's...
inciting hatred, if an account is inciting violence and for the killings of communities or individuals, then action needs to be taken in terms of those accounts need to be taken down, and I'll tell you why.
Hang on, Keith wants to come in.
Yeah. Inciting violence, absolutely right, and that should be the line. But what we mustn't get into is a situation where people are offended by something. None of us have the right not to be offended, and we're drifting in that area dangerously.
Sajda, is it inciting violence or is it offensive what you're seeing and you're concerned about?
Offensive hatred and violence, and I'll tell you why. Because that hatred, and I've seen from experience with individuals, that hatred online can spill into violence on the streets.
So it's a question of where you draw the line. Where would you draw the line?
I think it's incitement to violence is the place where I draw the line.
But the issue is, where can you actually define something as inciting violence? Or just saying, well, it's offensive. You know, obviously there's a spectrum of how that will be.
Well, absolutely, but that's what we have courts for, and for the juries and judges. It's appropriate to actually make that in the context of what's said and in the context in which it's made.
Charlotte.
I mean, if I might add to that, and I think where there are clear examples within the law, companies take a zero-tolerance approach to inciting online extremism, online and online hate speech. I think what we really need to consider when we talk about the solutions to this ongoing threat, nobody's saying this isn't difficult, no one's saying this isn't changing, and no one's saying that companies aren't saying they don't take this highly seriously. What we need to consider is there's issues around takedown. There's also issues about how do we counter that speech? How do we make sure that the deeper roots of those causes are countered, that there are counter-narratives?
The perspective, that people have when they get frustrated because they say that the online companies aren't doing enough to take down stuff is that they're protecting too much the rights of people to say things that others find offensive. How would a company actually define its role? Is a tech company, does it have to be a protector of free speech or a protector of individual rights?
And I think, companies have a clear requirement to abide with the law, and companies themselves will have separate policies around particular practices. I think more broadly we need to think about how is it when there is undesirable material online, and we're very clear that extremism material online is undesirable. How do we also counter that? So companies are doing efforts that are actually recognised deep in the pages of this report. We're working with organisations, civil society groups like the Institute.
Why isn't everything just taken out that is deemed to be inciting violence?
Anything that is deemed to be inciting violence as a zero-tolerance approach is taken down by many companies.
But just going back to that, National Counter-Terrorism Police specifically asking YouTube and Twitter to take down material that they believed should not be there, and the companies wouldn't.
And every instance needs to be looked at. There's partnership working. How do we make this work quicker and more effectively? If everything got taken down, that would all of the time that where there aren't examples. These things are highly contextual, and we need to make sure that working in partnership. Work very closely with the police, with the agencies, with civil society groups. YouTube, for example, has a kind of preferred flagger scheme. So if there are recognised groups that know how to target well, clearly a violation target, those are fast-tracked. There are really good examples of where this is working.
Really interesting to talk to you. We're out of time for now, but thank you very much, Charlotte, Sajda and Keith. Thank you.
I've been getting away with it all.